Hey guys, it's Joe here from Backwoods Inc. We're going to talk about the Appalachian Mountains today, and going to do a little internet scouting. And I have a client that's wanting me to do some e-scouting for him, and then later we're going to get on in this piece of land, and we're going to put boots on the ground to confirm what the internet scouting is going to show us. So, in the Appalachian Mountains, these mountains are very, very big mountains. This is not your average hill country. This is mountain country. So there's a lot of things could happen and go wrong in these mountains. You could have flash flooding at any moment. You could have a severe thunderstorm just pop up out of nowhere. And in certain times of the year, you could have a snowstorm pop up any time of the year, uh, especially in the spring and in the winter months. You know, it has its own ecosystem and weather system. So we're going to dive in here and we're going to take a look. This is the property where I got this little icon right here, and all this right here we're going to scout. And we're going to just go through it pretty quick, and I hope to make a good video for you guys. So here's nothing. First off, he wanted to try to figure out where a deer would be in an area like this, and first thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and turn on shaded relief. And then we will go to slope angle shading. All right, let's draw back out of here. If you'll look at this slope angle shading, anywhere you see these different colors like this red and the yellows, this is steeper terrain. All of this is going to be real steep terrain. Off in here is very steep, especially where it's red. Where this red and sometimes you'll see purples and blues mixed in, like right here. This is very, very steep. Very hard to hunt, and places like this can be good places to harvest giant bucks. So first thing we're going to do is look for some bedding. This is our point of reference or starting point of where he is going to start his hunt. So what we'll do is we're going to look for flatter spots than this. Not saying deer won't get in here and bed, but it's really steep, so a lot of deer is going to take the path of least resistance. So down in here is what I'm looking at first. There's a thermal hub. You got a point here, point here, a point here, a point here. So here's a hub. There's going to be a lot of bed in here. This is a big flat. But the problem with this is there's probably going to be a lot of swirling winds because this land is lower and this is your higher point. When you get down into here, it's going to be like a toilet bowl effect. It's going to be like this right here. So you're going to try to have to hunt outside of this to try to catch these deer. If you get down in here, they're going to smell you. So basically, you would be better off coming out here somewhere. I'll put a little, let's just say a deer's bedded right here in this hub. We'll put a marker there. Put our little This is going to be a pretty long video, so I'll go ahead and warn you guys. Put a D for deer, and we will make that blue. And we'll go ahead and we'll label that a buck bed. Let's say there's a buck bedding right there. Now, when you get off in here, the wind's going to do a lot of this and that. It could swirl the other way. This is south down here where my cursor is. Up here is north. Of course, over here is going to be west. And then over here is going to be east. So if you got a wind coming out of the south, coming up this, hitting this windward side, this is going to be the leeward side. And this is going to be where most of your beds are. Right here on these flat elevation lines. Down in here where you see all the red, where your slope angle shading is, that is so steep. There will be deer to get in there. I'm not saying they won't. But right in here is going to be typical deer bedding. So what'll happen is, like say right here for instance, if you got a deer bedding right here, put a marker on that spot. We already know that's a deer, so you got one bedded right here, and you got a south wind coming across this top of this mountain, or a southwest wind, which is pretty common here in the south. Come across the top, there's going to be bedding right here. This would be the military crest of this knob right here. This is what I call a knob. It's the tallest point. And he or she, the deer is going to be bedded down in here. And what'll happen is when the sun rises from the east, which is over here, he's going to get the first sunlight right here. So if it's a cold morning in the 20s, when it starts to heat up right here with the sunshine, this is going to get the first sun because this slope is facing east. And I've seen deer bed directly in the sun. Not only is he going to be in the sun, but when it starts to heat this up, the thermals will rise. He's going to be able to smell what's all down in here below him. And then he'll be able to see, what's up here. So if you try to approach him from the top, he's going to see you. He's laying looking up the hill. So as these thermals rise, he's laying with his back here and his head will be here and he's looking up here. And if you come down, he's going to see you. And if you're down here, he's going to smell you. And a lot of times on these hillsides is early in the morning, right at daylight, you have a thermals falling. So if you're set up in here and he's coming up out of here, he's going to smell you. So you're going to have to try to figure it out of how and where to hunt. And you're going to do it by deer sign. You get in here and you find where he's coming out of this hub. And you'll see rubs, tracks, scrapes, etc. And it'll kind of let you know a direction of travel. Let me get a drink of my coffee. And once you get a travel direction, you will be able to, pinpoint exactly what this deer's doing. So say for instance, the wind's coming from the southwest coming across this slope. And then you got the rising thermal coming up the hill. He's laying right here for a reason. The reason why is so thermal wind tunnel is going to be right here. It could be right on this line. It could be right under this hill right here. It's going to be a thermal wind tunnel. And if you don't know what a thermal wind tunnel is, it's basically kind of like a a tornado, except it will be turned sideways. So it's going to be a rolling wind. And he's going to be getting wind coming from the top of this hill and wind coming from the bottom, and the actual wind that the weather is producing. So, I mean, early in the morning before the sun rises, you got your thermals sinking off in here. So, if you're set up right here in a tree stand, your thermals is falling down in here. He's coming from here. He's going to smell you and go bed somewhere else. He may not even blow. He may go bed over here somewhere or over here somewhere, or he may go plumb across here just to get away from you. And what I try to do is I find where he's skirting these side hills, and I will approach him from the side. I already know this is pretty steep. It's not extreme steep, so I don't expect him to be coming from there. So what I would do is come off here and try to hunt here. If he's coming up out of here, like where this small bluff gap is, he could come up that. He's going to bed here, so I'm going to side skirt him. I'm going to come from the side of these hills, side of this hill. If I was to come off this hollow, there's that early morning thermal's going to go off in there. If he's been down here in his hub all night eating acorns. I mean, we're in the Appalachian Mountains. There is no agriculture here whatsoever. So we can zoom out. I can show you. There's no ag here. Nothing. So he's going to be looking for places like this at nighttime, to eat acorns and stuff like that. So it'd be better for you to come in from this steeper side, because I don't think he's going to go over there unless he's pushed over there. And you could come around here and you could hunt and get the off thermal, where once the thermals and the sun starts to rise, your scent's going to be going up this hill. So setting up here, you got the deer coming up, and he's getting the wind coming from the south coming across. He's got the thermals coming up. He could bed here, and you could possibly take this deer right here if there's a deer there. And I'm pretty sure there's a deer bedding, on this slope, because it's going to be like that right here, and over here is going to be deer bedding, and then here's going to be some deer bedding, and so on and so on. But this is a hub. And if we move around, you can see just how steep this country is. Look at that. That's almost, it'd be almost hell to try to hunt off in this. Like right here, we have what I call, this is also a type of hub. This is a bowl. There's a bowl right here. And what's going to happen is, it don't matter which way the wind's blowing. If the wind blows out of the north, comes in here, or it blows up out of the south and comes in here, or from the west and comes in here, or from the east, it's just going to bounce around in here and it's going to swirl. And anybody who has hunted anywhere like this right here knows that if you're sitting in your tree stand and you're like, all right, I got the wind just right, well, 30, 45 minutes after daylight, all of a sudden you got wind smacking you in the back of the head, wind slapping you in the face, side of your head, and this is going to be hard to hunt. Is it huntable? Absolutely. And big bucks will get off in these hubs like this, these bowls. This is like I call them a bowl hub. Some people call them something else, but that's what we always call them, was just a bowl or a big hollow or a holler or a cove. But when he gets down in here, I mean, he's basically got it made. I mean, this wind's doing this. He beds up in here. He's constant. He's got the wind blowing across the mountains. So he's going to get that and thermal rising and falling. And basically, it'd be crazy to go in there and try to hunt him. What you would want to do would be to come off here and try to find an area where he's going in here. Maybe it's scrapes and rubs that's leading him up in these bowls to bed. And we'll just basically they'll just bed anywhere they feel comfortable there. So we'll put him right there. He's bedded on a steep, say he's got a big rock face wall behind him right here. They typically do that. They will bed up against bluffs and stuff like that here in the south in these Appalachian Mountains. So you would have to approach him by going down this point somehow and hunting out here. And now you may not know the size of this deer. You may not run trail cameras, and if you try to put a cell camera in here, I can go ahead and tell you you're just out of luck. And you're probably not going to have any cell service, so you're going to have to learn how to read sign to hunt something like this. And he's going to have water, stuff like that already in here. And this is going to be loaded with acorns. And it's going to have all types of vegetation growing in here, especially on, these southern slopes is not going to have as much vegetation because it gets too much sun and it basically kills the vegetation. So your northeast slopes right in here, even though that's really steep, there's going to be a lot of vegetation. And in here where it's real shady, your shady areas, this is very steep and it's going to be very shady in here because the sun has a hard time penetrating this. So there will be some vegetation in here that doesn't get killed out by the sunlight because it gets really hot down here. And when the sun hits these, like over here on this northern slope, there's going to be vegetation growing in here. Anybody who's ever hunted ginseng knows when you get on these northern slopes, that's where all the vegetation is. If you're on the southern slope over here facing down, there's not that much vegetation. It's going to be very poor dirt because it gets way too much sunlight. And when it gets too much sunlight, you're just going to be in a tangle of all out hell, basically. But sometimes you have plants that can grow on southern sides, like briars, stuff like that can grow over here, and deer will eat briars. They love, briars and stuff like that. And mountain laurel, they will bed up in the mountain laurel. I haven't really seen them eat mountain laurel, but I'm sure they do. If it came down to it, they would eat mountain laurel. But anyway, back to the deer bedding here. You're going to have to find a way to hunt him out here, like find a scrape, find some rubs that's leading up in here, and make sure it's big deer sign before you try to hunt something like this. Because you get off in here one day just scouting, you're going to work your tail off, and if he's laying down sign, he's going to be laying it down over here. There's going to be deer sign in here too if he's there. But I would walk the edges of this on something that I didn't have to kill myself to try to do. Because if you fall in here and you're alone, it's over with. You break your leg, you're not getting out of here. They'll have to call somebody to come rescue you if they know you're even in here. So, and like I said, at any time you could have a flash flood and you could have all kinds of stuff go in these big mountains like this. These are not little hills. These are big mountains. Let's back on out of here. I'll go back over here to where this fella's going to be hunting. So I think this is going to be good for bedding, and there's going to be food here. Over here on the steeper side, there's still going to be a lot of acorns and stuff. Deer will get in here and travel. So down in here, there's probably going to be some beds. That's about a third way down. The military crest on this hill would probably be right in here. Right. right where it gets kind of not so steep that something can't travel, which they'll travel in the steepest terrain that they can find also. I've seen them in stuff that you wouldn't believe, like stuff over here where you see these dark purples and blues. A lot of that's rock face. They will travel in and around that. So let's move around a little bit here. We're just not going to stay stuck on one area. Let's move up here. Right here, there's a saddle running across through here. Little land bridge light, and it runs out there, and it runs out there until a point. This is going to be a good place to catch deer traveling, especially at night. They'll get up here and run this, going from points to points. Here, once again, there's a thermal hub. You're dealing with this. Everywhere you go, you're going to have to deal with these winds. There's nothing you can do about it. You're going to have to deal with the swirls. I mean, look at the backside of this, how steep that is. And this is so steep that there's probably going to be a cliff right here along this line. And the only way a deer can get in here is he will have to travel down one of these points and get off in here. And this could be good hunting. Just got to know what to look for. And I would suggest doing this before you go somewhere like this, because, I mean, look at this. Look at that. You get off in there, man, that is a booger. You better have you something to eat. You better have you something to drink. I mean, I can take away the shading, and you can still see how close these lines are together. When the closer the lines are together, the steeper this stuff is. So, not to say there's not deer in there. I guarantee you there's one in there. But you're going to have to get yourself in there to kill it. And one place you could get off would be right here. You could go off this point right here, and you could come down here, and once you did hit a flat bench and go around, you could hunt him. And you're going to have to follow this point down until you hit sign. Or he could be coming from over here and coming up this point. You will have to look for deer sign. It's hard to e-scout something like this. I will do some videos on farm country and stuff like that, but this, like I said, this is steep stuff, buddy. And this is not going to be your normal hill country where leeward side is going to be always the best hunting, because sometimes your leeward side, you're not even going to be able to access it. Like this, for instance. This looks good, but without any roads to access this, you're going to have to hike, and you're going to have to cover a lot of ground. And if you come in from, say, over here, you could cross this point and then come up this mountain over here, which is going to take you basically all day, because this is a lot of work. You could get on top of this mountain, and then you could drop off in here, and you're going to find deer bedding basically right here. That's where a deer would bed. Be a nice, good place for a deer. Right here would be a nice, good place for a deer to bed. And this is all based on, because these lines are getting wider and they're not so steep. And you could use this, since this is more of a straight up and down mountain, like more of like a single ridge. It's kind of singled out, so you could basically use this with leeward and windward sides. If you got a wind coming out of the south, this deer is going to be deer bedding right here. If it's coming out of the west, there's going to be deer bedding here. If it's coming out of the east, there's going to be deer bedding here just based off wind. But if you're going to go into the thermal situation, morning time, this would be the best bedding right here because you're going to have that rising thermal. And this is going to be the first spot to get sunlight. And if you got deer that are very cold, and it gets cold in here in the winter, it snows a lot, and these deer is going to travel these wider contour lines and bed in the sun. And as the sun rises and comes up over this mountain, so the sun's rising in the east over here, and as it comes across, it's going to begin later in the evening to heat up this western side, this west facing slope. And the deer, I have seen them walk around these points about midday to change their location. All they're doing basically in these spots like this is they're just bedding, standing up, walk a few 100 yards at the most during the day, eating acorns, lay back down, and they just go back and forth doing this, using the wind, using the thermals, and using the terrain. And that's how they survive in these mountains. And I can go back up here and change the imagery back to, we'll go to just global imagery just to, let you see. This is all big timber. They be very rare to see a timber cut in here like that. It's all oaks over there. There's not going to be a lot of hard transitions in here. It's just basically big country with big timber. And turn my shading back on. Now you can really see how steep this is. I mean, this darker stuff and this red stuff, this is steep stuff. And one way to hunt these deer, we'll talk about like bluff gaps. We will have to go back here and we will go down to give me just a second to change my map back to this. All right. You will want to find a bluff gap. Say a deer is running this top area up here. You find a funnel where he can get off the mountain. Like right here. This would be a good spot for him to come down. He can get down this and get down in here into some of this steeper country and bed. That would be a good place for him to get off. And then you got all these points. This is a thermal hub. When you pull out of here, you're going to see the hub. There's a finger, there's a finger, there's a finger, there's a finger, there's a finger. And there's going to be bedding all in here. And basically, you just got to find a place he can get off the top, or you can get off the top too to hunt him. Like, we'll go back over here and look at this. This is very, very steep terrain. He's not getting off of this unless this is going to be probably rock facing, cliff facing. He's going to have a hard time getting off. So about the only way he could come across would be this saddle right here. There's a saddle right there. He could come up across this saddle and go down this point. Or he could come up, cross this saddle, go down this point. All right, that was part one of the video. We're going to do the second part now. I run out of time on that one, so I will conjoin these together. This is going to be about a probably close to an hour view, so about another 30 minutes left. Thanks, guys. All right, we're going to continue the video now. We was talking about saddles and bluff gaps and stuff of that nature. So, like I was saying, a deer could run this. During the rut, he'll run down through here and he's going to look for places that does are crossing back and forth, especially like right here, like where does could come across. He's going to be checking here. You probably find a lot of scrapes right in here. He will lay down scrapes and rubs and everything, and he's just going to run back and forth up through here till he can find where a doe has come up, down, and traveled these areas, and he can run across her scent. And that's how they breed in situations like this. Otherwise, when it ain't breeding season, he's just in survival mode, running points and ridges and stuff, and just eating and stuff like that. So let's see if we can find us a good bluff gap. This stuff is steep. When I say steep, I mean steep. All right, here we go. This is real steep. This is probably going to be rock facing. I may even be able to see when I switch back over to global. It is rock facing. You can see the rocks right here. A deer cannot get off of this. So we got to look for a gap. This is a cliff. This is, you walk to the edge and you fall off and die. That's what this is. So I'm going to change this back over to our shaded relief. And we can now see, I showed you that it was all rock facing. So he has to get off somewhere. If there's a deer up here running this top, coming up this point, and he wants off in here, he's got to get off somewhere. So over in here, you can see this runs out onto a point. He's not getting off this. We already know. We got to find him a funnel. Right in here where this crosses. This is very steep, but they will come down this right here. I mean, you can see the reds. He'll probably come down through this yellow right here. That's going to be like a little travel area to get him back off in here. And these big benches, man, they are loaded with acorns. They're going to be loaded with deer sign. And this will get him off in here. That's one way he could get off. He's not coming off here. So if he wants her in here, he's going to have to figure it out. And that's one way they will get down here. He will run up here and then run back down this point to get off into this valley. And down in here, these will be little valleys. And there's probably going to be water. I mean, that's 2,200 feet. That's probably, you can find water crossings here. Might be able to turn that on. And if I do this, and then I turn on the globals, we could probably see exactly. That's what I thought. There's a river there. So what we'll do here is we'll talk a little bit about these mountain river crossings, stuff like that. We know there's going to be a river right here now. So I'll have to turn off the global. If I don't turn off the global, it's going to be more hard to see the hills. So we'll go back to shaded relief. Now we can see there's a river here. Could be a spring, just a small, water running in and out of here. You're going to find this all in mountain country. There'll be a lot of water. This is a rainforest. A lot of people don't know it, but this is a rainforest. Welcome to Appalachia. It is. The place has a mind of its own. I really like the way this looks right here. Here's a thermal hub right here with water. See if I can get it. So I get everything lined up. Let's get it in the center of the screen here. All right. Here you have a point, a point, a point, and a point, and here's a hub. This is going to be a good place for a big buck to be bedded. And we'll go ahead and get our little deer icon. I know this has been a long video, and if you're still watching, I appreciate it. I will do more videos when it comes to farm country and stuff like that, because I know you guys want to learn about that stuff too. But places like this is so mysterious. Well, here's your thermal hub. Once again, you're going to have all these swirly winds down in here. I really like this, but you can come in when you find your access. Right up there, that says manager area. There's going to be a road somewhere you can get off in here. You just cross these little creeks, walk up and down them till you find where the deer's crossing, and then you can figure out, a travel corridor. But I can guarantee you, there's going to be a big buck in here. He's got food, water, bedding, and the perfect wind scenario, and it's going to be hard to hunt. But that's why bucks get so big in these areas. And it's going to be full of mountain laurel, poisonous snakes. You really got to be careful. I've done said that once in this video, and if you're going to hunt stuff like this, you need to go and scout it first. You got a hub here. What I really wanted to show you was gaps, but it's really hard to show you. It's basically going to have to be we know this is rock. This is going to be a rock face hill. Let me go back, make sure I'm about 100% sure this is rock faced. Should be some gray. It is. It's all cliff, rock faced. We zoom in here, you're going to see the grays pop up. That's rock, limestone rock. That's what that is underneath trees. That's when the satellite flew over it, you can see the gray. This is limestone, and it gets a lot of sunlight also up on top of these hills, so it is killing the trees basically. They will not have much shading or leaves out on top of these trees. So that is 3,400 feet. Like I told you earlier, these are big mountains. I'm going to go back to my shaded relief. Let's back out a little. You get too zoomed in, everything gets blotchy. So we know if a deer's traveling this, and this is rock face, he's got to get off somewhere. Right here is a good place for him to come off. Got a funnel right here. This is a gap. He can get down this. Or he may come off here. Look how easier it would be for him to just come off here and then to come in here. He would hit one of these side hills right here, and he would come down and come off in here and live fruitfully. There's a river in here. It's very steep, so there's not going to be a lot of hunters in here. And predators is not going to really want to be in there. Because, once it gets too steep, coyotes and stuff like that, they don't want to be a part of that. They would rather be out here chasing ground squirrels. And in these mountains, you have black bears, you have coyotes. That's probably your two top predators for the deer. Maybe even a big gray fox or something could kill a fawn, maybe, but this right here, buddies, is goat trails. And they will come up in this stuff and because they feel safe. And not only that, you know, there's that bowl effect again. This is where I like to talk about getting the blowback effect. You get off in something like this and you're hunting, and then you just got the wind. It don't matter which way the wind's blowing that day, it's going to bounce around like a pool ball on a pool table, and then it starts to swirl. So he's going to get in here and lay up somewhere and have it made. Same thing that I showed you earlier. But those creek crossings that I showed you, those can be ideal. Man, you're talking about killing a deer in the mountains. If you can find where they're crossing water, you will see where it's cut out. And this is in the Cohutta Mountains. I guess y'all can see that now. That is actually called Hickory Creek. So it's a creek. But these creek crossings, if when you can find where a deer is crossing from one side to the other, or crossing these creeks, all you got to do is set up with a gun, with a bow. It doesn't really matter. This is a lot harder to bow hunt than it is gun hunt because you can set up with a gun off hill and shoot a deer further than you can with a bow. It's going to be hell to hunt with a bow. But people do it every year and people are successful at it. I do like the way this looks also. You got a little bit bigger. You can bear hunt this land also. Got a little bit bigger of a river system running through here. It's pretty wide, you can see, double lined. Got a good point coming right here. This is probably going to be rock face. This is going to be pretty sure rock face. You got a point coming out here, and deer can get down this. So if they can get down it, you can get down it. This could be a good place to catch deer coming up off of here, coming down to get down in here. That's pretty much what deer do in the mountains is they just follow contour lines. And when they bed, like right here, if the wind was out of the south, that'd be a good place for a buck to bed. I mean, that would be a good deer bed right there. You need to look at stuff like that. And then you got your funnels, anything that'll funnel a deer from one area to another. I'm trying to find a. All right, here we go. Here's a saddle. It's hard to find a saddle in this. All right, you got a little saddle right here. Deer's up here. He wants to get to this mountain. He's going to cross this. Here's your little saddle. You get over here and he can now be on this mountain. These are all the same mountains, but I'm pointing this. He can be out on this ridge, or he can come around here to get to this ridge, and he'll cross this. And he's going to be looking for does too. And then he could go off in here in bed. There's your little bow hub again. It's the stuff you need to look for when you come to these type of mountains to hunt. And then also, we'll talk about falling thermals for just a second. So in the evening time, when the sun gets over here in the west, you got your sun over here now. It's done came up and went across these mountains. All the thermals is going to start to fall. They'll fall downhill. And it's just like pouring water on top of this knob right here. And you'll see which way that the water's going to go. It's going to go down these hills through these crevices and stuff like that. that's going to be a fallen thermal. So in the evening, it's best to hunt below the deer. That way you will have the fallen thermal in your advantage. So don't try to hunt up top in the evening and kill a deer that's coming up to the top, because he's going to bust you. You're going to get smelled. The best thing to do is get on a side hill and let your wind fall down in here, your wind flow down in here, your wind, wherever you're hunting, let your wind be off set of where you think the deer's coming from. If it's coming around this contour line right here, the worst thing you could do is hunt up here, because you see it's going to blow right in his face. This is, around that 3 or 4 o'clock in the evening, starts to get shady and the thermals is going to fall. When they Sometimes on these northwestern slopes, these thermals will fall all day long until late in the evening. Then it will only rise for just a few, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. You will only have a rising thermal on the northwest side. That's because it don't get any sunlight. And then what sunlight it does get is later in the day before the thermals actually rise. It may be 3 p.m. before the thermals rise up this hill. So you got to take that into account too. Your morning thermals, all your eastern slopes, northeast, east, southeast, that's going to be rising thermals. Later in the day, the rising thermals will be on the northwest side. You will get, that'll be the last rising thermal you get. Once the sun gets over here and starts to heat this up, you're going to get a rising thermal. And then all of a sudden, when this mountain side starts to get shaded in the evening, guess what? There goes those thermals again. They'll start to rise as it starts to get dark. And it would take a little while for this ground to cool off. So it's going to be falling. And then after dark, sometime in the night, when the ground cools, they're going to start to rise and pull up again. Because that's the way, hot air and cold air rises and falls and does stuff like that. So all this does that over the top of these mountains. Just like if you was to have a storm come up, it's going to happen at the top, because you would have, humidity and all that stuff, and it'd be rising, and then you would have the winds out of the west, out of the windward side would be over here, and rising thermal is going to cause swirl here, and you would get a rain right here. It would develop right here and then move off this way if you want to be a weatherman, but we're talking about deer hunting. So anyway, guys, that's going to just about wrap it up for today. I may do some more videos on stuff like this, but this is the Georgia mountains. This is the Cohutta Mountains, and it's a very, very, very large mountain range. If you've never been there, it's a very beautiful place to go. There is some roads that can get you in here, so you do have some access to get off in here and hunt. And if you get the opportunity to hunt something like this, take advantage of what I just showed you, because it could be an all-out war in here. Be safe in here. Uh, take your time. Be patient. Uh, watch thermals. Watch getting caught up in bowls, such as something like this. Watch your thermal hubs. Hunt the edges of the hubs. Look for scrapes, rubs, anything that can give you a direction of travel. And main thing is just to be safe. Be prepared. Have plenty of food, plenty of water. Have some medicine. Have something that you can. There's that one thermal hub we was talking about earlier. Have something that you fall, get a cut that you can, tape up your arm or something. Duct tape is a good thing. I carry duct tape with me everywhere I go. You can make a cast. You can make a splint. You can take duct tape. It's one of the number one things in the world. And if you're going somewhere like this, buddy, you better be prepared. So you guys take care, and we'll do a little farm country stuff and some swamps and stuff like that too. And I'm going to get out, put boots on the ground, and I'm going to show you guys some of the stuff that I'm talking about with these mountains. So in these mountains also, you're going to find different. The wind is, deer ain't going to bed so much with wind-based bedding. It's going to be a thermal and a wind swirl and terrain. Now you get on the smaller ridges around, Ohio and stuff like that, then you're going to get more of a wind-based, classic leeward side stuff. This here is not always going to be leeward. Leeward will come in effect, but not always. So, I mean, you're hunting something, like I said earlier, this is a rainforest. And not only is it a rainforest in the winter, it gets cold, buddy, and it does snow. You could have a foot of snow overnight. So if you're going up in here to camp, stay, be careful, be prepared, take care. Love each and every one of you. I hope you made it this far in the video. I appreciate all of you guys, and take care.